So getting started with this part creation, this is the part here that we are going to build and create a drawing for and then move over to placing it into an assembly. So initially, let's start by going through the interface. So let's start at the top left-hand part of SOLIDWORKS and we'll kind of work our way through. So at the very top, we've got kind of your file menu options here. File, edit, view, insert. This is just your standard Windows functionality. Now over to the right of that, you can kind of see there are some hotkeys for this, like save, open, new. Now one thing that you'll notice is you'll see like there's this little pin here. If I unpin this, you can see that that file, edit, view actually gets hidden. So in a number of places in SOLIDWORKS, you'll see this little thumbtack icon. So I like to make sure that mine's selected. Now, moving over to the right-hand side, there is a search window. So typically, by default, this is on Search SOLIDWORKS Help, but as you can see, we can hit this little drop-down and change this to be commands, files, or even search, YouTube or training. I like to leave this on commands because if I know a command that I don't normally use all the time, I'll just go up there, search it, hit enter, and grab that tool that I'm looking for. Also, if you're new to SOLIDWORKS, I can search for a certain tool, and if I hit the little eye icon, this says show command location. Once I click on it, don't move my mouse, it will take me there and give me a nice big red arrow. So it's a good way to help learn the software, or basically learn where things are placed. Now, at the top here, this is the command manager. This is what manages all of your different commands, as funny as that sounds, right? So these are where all of your tools are located. So you can see I've got 5 different tabs here. Now, if you want to add or remove certain tabs, like in this case, we don't need MBD, I can right click on that. I can go down to where MBD is checked and I can uncheck it and it will turn it off. If I needed to turn on sheet metal or weldments or mold, I can just turn those on and they are now enabled. Moving down, we have our Feature Manager Design Tree. Typically, we just call it the feature tree for short. So this is what houses all of our features. So SOLIDWORKS is a parametric, feature-based, time-based software. So what does that mean? So feature-based means, or time-based, 2 different ways of talking about it, just means that as you go through and you build these commands, or if you build these features, you can always go back and edit them. Some of these CAD tools are just additive, so you just place on either an extrude or a cut that you're doing, and you have no way to go back and edit that function. You can just edit that geometry or create new ones. SOLIDWORKS is not like that. So SOLIDWORKS can go back and edit any of your sketches or these features. And being that it is parametric, we can actually build smarts into the software as well. So if we state that maybe this one dimension is 2 times the size of this other dimension, if we change that initial dimension, it will also change our other dimension. Where if you don't have a parametric CAD tool, it will not do that. Okay. So back into the software here. In our feature tree, you can see we've got like our extrudes, our cuts, our fillets, and this goes from top down. So whatever we did at the top is first. And you can see there's like these arrows. It shows you what's parent and child. So it shows you what it's referencing and then what features are referencing it. That kind of parametric approach here. Now at the top of there, we've got a bunch of different tabs. So we do have a property manager. This you won't ever actually really click on, but when you're in a tool, it flips you from your feature tree to the property manager for the tool, and then when you cancel out of the tool or accept the tool, it goes back. In the configuration manager, this is what holds all of our different configurations, different variations of the part. So if we need to make this part a little bit longer, we just create a new configuration. Now there's the DIM Expert Manager. This is typically used with MBD, PMI information. We're not really going to get into that here. And then our Display Manager, this is what that shows the colors that we're using in our part, but it also shows our lighting, our scene, and things like that. We won't really get into this. We're going to stick mainly with that Feature Manager Design Tree. At the bottom, we do have a couple tabs. You can see we've got 3D views for MBD. We also have our animation tab, so if we do have an assembly that needs to move or show an exploded state, We can do it in here. There is explode tools, which I'll show you in a little bit. But also if you're doing a simulation study, you will find that here as well. We have our graphics triad in the bottom left-hand corner. We can go and we can actually click through here to show us different views. But this is our graphics area. Right? So your graphics area is obviously where your part is. Now going down to the bottom right-hand corner, it tells us what we're doing. This is called the status bar. It shows us that we are editing a part and that our units are millimeters, grams, seconds. If we needed to change, we can change here, or we can go into edit to get a little bit more information. Also part of the graphics area is up at the top we have this what we call the heads up view toolbar. I typically just call it your heads up display. All of these tools in here are tools that help you in your graphics area. So we're either changing the display style, changing the orientation, doing a graphical section view, zoom to fit, zoom to area. I also have on some custom tools here like measure, normal to, and even create a sketch or get in and out of a sketch. So some of these tools you might end up adopting yourself, but these are tools that are specifically helpful for that graphics area. Now over to the right hand side we have our task pane. We're not really going to get into this too much. We will talk about the view palette tab, which is in the drawing section, but it's not enabled here. So because this is a drawing tab, because we're in a part, we can't do that. So that's one nice thing about SOLIDWORKS is if you're trying to select on a tool or do something that's not enabled at the time or not allowed, it will completely gray it out and not allow you to kind of go through the tool and I guess fake use it, I guess you'd say. So then we also have appearances and more so custom properties, but we can kind of get into those later on down the road. Now to utilize or to rotate this model around, we can use our arrow keys. So I'm using my right arrow key to spin this around. If I use an up or a down, it will rotate that in that fashion. But we click down on our scroll wheel to do a rotate. That's what helps us rotate. Zooming in and out is a kind of like as you're scrolling up and down a page on the internet or in Word. It's just a zoom out, or I guess you zoom up to zoom out and you zoom towards you to zoom in, and it does it based on where your mouse is pointed. So if my mouse is pointed over here, I'm going to zoom in over here. If my mouse is on my part, it zooms to that part. Now if I end up just losing this completely, if I do a double click on my middle mouse wheel, it does a zoom to fit and it kind of brings that to that screen. We also have zoom to fit up top, and it is you can see where it says zoom to fit over to the right side of that. There's the parentheses and the capital F. That means that if we hit F on our keyboard, it will do the same thing. Okay. Now if we've got this where we kind of want it here, we just want it in the middle. If we do a control and middle mouse select, it will kind of do a pan for us, and then we can kind of zoom in from there if we'd like. So that's the interface. So I know this was a lot, so I suggest either replaying this video and kind of understanding where things are and seeing everything. So go through, maybe replay it again if you've got it, understand it, or if you used SOLIDWORKS in the past. Feel free to move on to the next video. And the next video we are going to start with basic sketches to create this part.